Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday Super Show. Pete's head pops up in the air really
Hello.
fast. Welcome. It's Wednesday. It's time for a great Super Show today. We are super excited. Today's Pete's last Super Show. For those that missed it on Monday, Pete got a job offer that he just couldn't turn down. So Pete will be leaving the team. Pete's last day here at the store will be Friday, and we're going to miss Pete greatly. And so expect some programming changes, expect some stuff. But we are here for Pete's final thing.
And as a result, you get to hear some interesting thoughts.
And so segment number one we're going to talk about in a second. We're also going to talk about DM's Guild and Drive-Thru RPG banning AI content, which is relevant to our interests, obviously.
Yes.
And then we're also taking your topics in chat. For segment number 3, we're going to have Sean Epperson from Thing12 Games. He's going to be joining the stream. We're stocking a bunch of their games now, their local game design team. And so we're going to talk to him about some of his cool games and what he thinks about the tabletop industry writ large.
And his cool hat.
It's a cool hat. Okay. So, but we're going to jump right into it. Again, if you have any topics, if you are watching us on YouTube or Twitch, you guys can drop your topics in the chat. We'll grab those for the end of the show. We may go a little long today because it is Pete's final stream, so we'll see. Y'all be nice, and we'll go from there. All right. So for those that haven't had a chance to interact with Pete, Pete is very much has very much interest in things like UFOs, UAPs, as they're officially calling them in Congress.
Yeah.
Sasquatch, things of that nature. He likes stuff like that. He's very interested in it. Pete has turned me on to a bunch of documentaries. He got me hooked into a documentary series about an ancient apocalypse. It's good stuff. And so, yes, cryptids, as the chat is going.
Compelling.
So, what's really interesting, and a story that Pete and I have actually been following, is that News Nation was the first news agency to break this. There was a whistleblower coming he was coming out of government work saying, the U.S. government is lying to you. We have UAPs, UFOs, and biological entities in our custody. And so he came forward. So this morning, Congress actually held a hearing.
They did.
Okay. To speak with not only him, but a Navy pilot who was one of the most famous encounters with what they call the flying Tic Tac.
Yes.
Right? And some other folks from the government. And I watched the hearing.
Yes.
Pete, let's start with you. What are your thoughts here?
Aliens. Tall hair represent Giorgio. Yeah, I've gotten some messages from various people this morning. They're like, did you see this? This and this. They said this. And some of my reaction is like, thank you. I woke up late. I'll watch it. But some of my reaction has been, I done been told you. Everything they're saying. I'm like, yeah, I said it. Yeah. But anyway, that's my I told you so out of the way. Yeah. So there's a lot. And you and I talked about how seriously they are taking this.
It was one of the things, again, even people who I normally consider clowns in Congress, guys like Matt Gaetz, were like dead on serious, like Paulina Luna. They're like, no, this is a matter of grave national importance.
Yes. I mean,
it wasn't a normal, like, jokey congressional hearing where you want to make jokes.
Well, they have, like, Lou Elizondo, right? And he was part of the UAP task force, yada, 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 and all this stuff. And it's one guy. So they're like, yeah, okay, whatever, like, why'd you leave, ha, 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 ha. But when you get somebody who's like Grush, the government, he literally is.
Tell the audience who this guy is.
Oh, yeah, so he is, okay, I don't know titles as well as you
Brief.
do. Essentially, like, part of the CIA, and to pretty high up there, to the point where he could access this stuff. Now, some stuff, they were like, nah, that's privileged, because they try to compartmentalize all of this alien extraterrestrial UFO and UAP stuff. So that's how they keep things secret, is by compartmentalizing it, like There's just some people know some things and some people don't. You're not allowed to. But he could find out some stuff. But he was like, when you talk about the government and CIA, like this guy was that.
So this guy specifically was an intelligence officer with the Air Force and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency,
Thank you.
which is a big deal.
Yes.
And he's basically become a whistleblower, right?
Yeah, through non-official channels.
Yes. And it's a big deal. The other people that were at the panel today was Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot who's spoken out about his UAPs, and David Fravor, who shot the now famous Tic Tac video of the large object during off the coast of San Diego.
Yep.
And they asked him specifically about that event today, right?
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me that this is happening. And like when I say they were taking it serious, Burchett threatened to, he's like, we're going to subpoena people, and if they don't do it, right?
They had trouble.
You know, we're going to use the Hoffman rule, right? We're going to start withholding funding until they start answering to Congress.
Which, if you want, you know, the Pentagon and various, you know, Black Book, whatever agencies to not have funding, I guess this is a way for that to finally be accomplished. Thanks, Grush.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. The witnesses took it very seriously. Like, they were very, even at times, while they were clear about what they think they're seeing here and where their conclusion is drawn, they were still...
they have certain things they can't say.
Well, that, and they were still, and there was a bunch of those, like, we need to talk about this in the skiff during that hearing, which is fine. That goes to show that they're taking this seriously. Like, look, we can talk about this in the skiff because there's certain specifics.
Yep.
Grush also agreed to provide Congress with a complete witness list.
That surprised me, that he openly was like, yeah.
I'll give it to you right after the hearing.
I'll do it. I was surprised at what, because I thought he was going to, you know, he came out on News Nation, which, thank you, News Nation. Good job to you also. Congratulations. I fully expected this to be a regular hearing of like, I'm not at liberty to say, I'm under secrecy, whatever. I was shocked at the stuff that he did confirm, but say that he can't expand upon. Like the whole biological entity thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, here, when I heard that clip, I was like, here we go. He's going to say, I can't tell you. He's like, yes, but I can't give you much more detail than yes. So, yeah, biological entities confirmed via him.
This was a congressional hearing. And,
yeah.
And here's the thing, on neither side did anybody, and I mean anybody, like the whole time, the Congress people who were conducting this hearing, right, were all like, there was never this pushback of like, are you sure? Like, they were taking this, like, okay.
What does biological entities mean? Okay, so that means it can be humans, it could be extraterrestrial. I don't remember if he gave any more specifics.
He was not specific about that. So basically, going back to kind of what News Nation, like the original News Nation report, what Grush's claim is that for some time, he's not specific, right? But for some time, the executive branch of this country, right, and its various agencies have had in their possession ships, vessels of some sort, and biological entities.
That's right. He did confirm that they were not human.
That are not human.
I forgot about that in my flurry of waking up this morning. Yes.
Right.
Thank you, Wildling. He did confirm they were not human. Which is, that's the first time we've had that leap.
And again, you've seen this stuff in funny documentaries in the past, and aliens, right? This is the first time, I think, in Congress where it's, again, been taken seriously. So, like, in the light of day.
Yes. And if you're thinking, like, if you're watching this now or in the future, if you're like, if I may, aliens aren't for me. I'm not really into sci-fi. Like, whatever. Why should I care? There's a few reasons why you should care about this. If there are non-human biological entities, that's a huge deal. That means we're not alone in the universe. And especially, expanding upon that point, if they are as advanced as we think that they are, first off, well, if they are not human and we're not alone, and they are advanced as we think that they are, that kind of turns a lot of religions on its head, which is a big part of secrecy.
You're talking about major social change.
Yes.
If this turns out to all be fact.
There's a story about Jimmy Carter being briefed. This was before everything got super locked down, which you can thank Nixon for. And I can talk about that sometime or some other time. But yeah, there's a story about Jimmy Carter being briefed and reading everything, and Jimmy Carter's a religious person, and being moved to tears, reportedly because it turned his religion on its head. Now, he still practices and still tries to be a good person, so I don't know what was in that document, but that's apparently a thing. So that's a pretty big deal.
It's hard because it's so serious, because of the way that they're doing it. Like, you want to get bombastic about it, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Because it is very, again, we've seen this a bunch of times where people are like, there's alien, and it's just kind of laughed off or sloughed away and stuff like that. The way that they attacked this hearing, and there was a few of the questions that were like, are military pilots being honest if they have encounters with these objects? And they're like, no. 95% of them aren't reported because pilots are told it is bad for your career to report these. And there is no, and the other one that I liked was they were like, for the whistleblower stuff and things like that, because he went to the ICIG first, right, under the Congressional Intelligence Committee, right? But there's no, basically line where the ICIG, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, can get this information to the right oversight committees.
Yeah.
Right? Is it going to help me win Commander on Friday? Maybe.
How about this? How about this? Part of the issue of disclosing this is sort of existentialism, an existential crisis. Maybe, I don't know, you seem pretty chill, Necrotier, but for some people in their day-to-day, this might just lift some burden off your shoulders. It's just like, hey, essentially, you could think of it as like, God is real, and there's something way more powerful out there than me, and yeah, okay, sure, and relax and play Commander. Like, well,
oh, that was weird.
All right, relax and play Commander. Just be like, it's of no consequence in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. Maybe. How about that?
Again, this show being something like stuff you talk about in the game store, this is just a fun topic. That's why we're covering it. We're covering because, again, it's one of the topics that Pete and I have spent a long time talking about, right?
Yes.
About cryptids and aliens and stuff like that, just chatting. And also, again, it's interesting technology. It's
and that brings me to part 2 of why you should care, is the technology and the how's all that energy generated? Do we
fix
know?
Our energy crisis forever?
Exactly. So there's I'm gonna chain myself here and let you guys I'm gonna say some stuff, but I'm also gonna try to not come off as crazy. There's suspecting that we have recovered a lot of these crafts, which they admit to actually, but the power source for these, in order to move so fast, the power generation for that could solve a lot of stuff. And there's some suspecting that private corporations are the ones that are in that was handed over to them.
They were talking about that in the hearing. They were like, defense contractors are the ones that are trying to reverse engineer, because they asked him first off, has anyone ever been injured reverse engineering this technology? And I was expecting another skiff answer, and he was like, yep. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? They're being straight. And again, this is a congressional hearing, right?
Can it cure Congressman Gates?
Pete, do you think, all right, here's a good question. Do you think that let's presume a truth here.
Yeah.
The beings that have visited, that are buzzing our towers, are they friendly, adversarial, or indifferent to humans? What's your personal theory?
I'm going to go with fairly indifferent. they started really showing up after World War II, after we started
That we know of.
They started really popping up and documented after World War II, after the atomic bomb. And I think that they're just like, let's think of it this way. If you're driving by your neighborhood and something as loud as a transformer explodes, but you didn't see a transformer go off, even if it is a transformer, you're going to stop and be like, what was that? Like, yo, the apes are blowing up the neighborhood here. Like, the earth full of monkeys, like, they figured out how to blow some stuff up. Like, oh man, we got to take a look at this and keep an eye on it so they don't start venturing out and bringing their explodies elsewhere. I don't know. That's kind of my, I'll just keep it there, thought on it.
I really think, again, I tend to lean toward indifferent. And the best quote comes from a movie that I love, but it's like, when you kill a spider, do you explain to the spider why you're killing it?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of thinking about it.
You know, no, you don't. And they're doing because, you know, this. I'm with you on the whole energy thing. Again, there was a couple pieces that I thought was very interesting out of the hearing. One was the aviators who the guy who'd run into the thing. He's like, look, we looked at it in every sense we have. We could not see the propulsion system. We don't know how it was moving. Because on a jet, they've got fire coming out the back. Well, you've got heat.
Yeah.
It's energy that's being transferred and causing the plane to fly.
Yeah.
They're like, nothing. We have no idea. And then the one guy who's the aviator, he's a retired commander now. And he goes, what did he say? I've got the quote here. What I experienced was well beyond the material science and capabilities that we had at that time, that we have currently, or that we're going to have in the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine logistics, getting food around the world.
Yeah.
If you can accelerate from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour with no trail, no emission.
Yeah. That's the thing. No propulsion system. So the way that we have to move things, right, as humans right now, it's hard. You have to put an energy source in, it has to burn or whatever, use up that energy source and essentially send something out the back in order to propel forward. And the Tic Tac and all these things don't have that. Plus, you can't change direction quickly. Like it's because we're just scooting ourselves. We're essentially
through air, yeah.
Yeah, we're rocketing ourselves forward and trying to push through all these atoms and stuff. What these things are doing is moving and then doing 90-degree turns in the air and in the water. So the reports of 1,000 miles an hour underwater, which you know how difficult.
It's not possible.
And crazy.
That we know.
And the heat signature on these things, there's not one. They're cold, which is another thing that's just insane. So
again, this was a very bipartisan group of people. A bipartisan group of senators, led by Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, have introduced an amendment to the annual defense spending bill, going, "Hey, you need to open up," right? What I think is going to be fascinating next, because I think this is the first time, really, that this level of disclosure has happened in the light of day, right?
From the government, yeah.
Well, and specifically from whistleblowers, right?
Yes.
And I think that Congress is saying, okay, executive branch, we give you a lot of leeway, but you've got to...
Hey.
It's time.
It's time.
There's too much of this. Like there was the one in near 29 Palms a month ago that all the people were recording in California at the Marine base.
The cops were like, yeah, I'm going to be real with you. Like, what? The cop was kind of lower the professionalism for a sec.
Here's the thing, Necrant, here, and this is the thing. I see what you're saying, but what's fascinating to me about this, and actually what directly addresses kind of what you're thinking of, is this. Imagine if a week from now, right, the Biden administration just gave up. They were like, you know what? It's time. It's time, right?
To just let everything out?
Just let everything out.
Yeah.
And they went on a declassification spree. And imagine what it would do to, again, where we have these social issues. It puts them into harsh perspective. You know what I mean? Because now you're going to be dealing with again, things of existentiality, right? Like, if the Biden administration came out in a couple of days and was like, yep, yes, we have recovered 20-something craft, we've recovered this many alien bodies.
Yeah. Here's something.
And yeah, it's true. We don't know what to do about it. We're working on it, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? A lot of the bad legislation that you're worried about kind of goes away because everybody stops thinking about that for a little while because those things seem very small compared to, oh crap, we're not alone in the universe.
Yeah, and despite
And by the way, people have the capability of traveling here.
Yes.
And you gotta remember from a writer's perspective, somebody who's done a lot of sci-fi research and stuff like that. Again, one of the things that if you talk to sci-fi writers that they have to hand wave frequently is faster than light travel, right? Because we're not sure if and how it's even possible, right? Yep. So either these guys are a lot closer than we thought and we've just kind of missed them, which is unlikely, or they are able to travel immense distances.
So a couple things on that. A lot of, and there's always going to be hateful people out there who just don't like others. That's just going to happen. From my time growing up, where I grew up, and talking to some people that I've talked to, a lot of the schmatzis, as Necrontyr said, comes from a place of insecurity.
Fear.
And fear. If we get to the point, we do have this technology, say it exists, and we do start like coming out with it, harnessing it, whatever, for travel, and you can feed people and move things around and not have that being gated via congressional whatever laws.
And again, the energy capability alone.
You eliminate a lot of this scarcity that causes fear and hatred among people and
climate
infighting.
change.
Climate change. Stuff like that. Now, am I totally idealistic and think that it'll all be wonderful after that? No. You'll still have people that are like, those people don't deserve this. And they're wrong.
No, they'll just start hating the aliens instead.
Yeah. Well. So, I'm glad you brought that up. As much as I disagree with him, Ronald Reagan actually made a great point. He made a speech to the UN that was like, imagine if we had an existential external threat. This is during the Cold War. How quickly we would all lay down our arms or unite against this, and our differences would just be not a thing. Now that's
Look
funny.
Look at Independence Day.
Yeah, which is funny because, he used the KKK and all that in order to get himself elected into office and all that type of stuff. So kind of rich coming from him. But the statement on its face, good point. So
yeah. Again, I'm fascinated. I really, because as of the recording of this episode, neither the Pentagon or the intelligence agencies have responded. Actually, it reminds me of another really fascinating thing, again, kind of working for government.
Yeah.
And this, again, when I went, oh, they are taking this seriously. Because one of the really telling questions that one of the congressmen asked was, is it possible? Because, again, they're trying to take this seriously. Is it possible that this technology has been developed by an American agency and that it hasn't been disclosed to the other agencies, right? So is there an agency within the U.S. government? Hang on. And he goes, and he's asking all three of them. He's like, is it possible that we developed this technology, right, or somebody has, and it just hasn't been disclosed to all the other agencies like the Department of Defense, right? And the answer was unequivocally, nope.
That would be a tall order. That would be a really tall order to keep. You know how leaks happen.
Well, and again,
like somebody sees something, and
it's not just that. Again, you'd want to bring them in a little bit. And again, just something I found interesting. They were like, is it possible? Because they were going to the witnesses and basically trying to think of any other way this could be but aliens.
Yeah.
They were asking like, could it be this? And they were like, nope. Could it be this? Nope.
Yep. Unfortunately, yeah. Why do we have to fight them though? I'm not advocating fighting them. I think it'll be a thing.
No, I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying like,
if we were in a situation when he said adversary, like I think at that point we didn't necessarily know the intentions, maybe, or again, thank you Nixon for causing this to be hyper compartmentalized, and the president can't be briefed on a lot of times. At that point, Ronald Reagan probably didn't know as much as previous presidents could have known.
That was another fascinating thing. They were talking about a declassified treaty that apparently we have with a bunch of other countries, including Russia, that says that if the aliens come, there is a de-escalation thing so that nobody accidentally starts a war
That's
with
what
the
I'm
aliens.
saying. That's what I'm.
I was like, they've been building treaties on this?
Yes, that's what I've been trying to tell people is like this stuff goes on and they do. It's the it's the government. There are contingency plans and they do look forward to stuff. Except for apparently fucking AI, we can't figure out what to do about that. But yeah, so Dog Dad, I want to bring this up. Dog Dad says the government only has one response to something more powerful than it, to nuke it. Here's something funny, and this is another reason why you should care.
Oh, they asked about this in the hearing.
There's a guy, and there's actually a few people. These UFO sightings tend to happen around like our nuclear arsenal and sites. There was a guy, they saw it on the radar. They're like, something's coming in fast, and then it's just hanging here. Aircraft, unless it's a helicopter, can't do that, but helicopter can't move that fast. This guy is in charge, one of the people in charge of keeping watch of the nuclear launch site and all this stuff, codes and whatever. Like, launch the nukes. Are you sure? This guy said that all of their safeguards, when this thing appeared above them, went down. And he's not a high-ranking person necessarily. He's just like, what button should work? Button no work. Let me look at my like backup stuff. Oh, those no work either.
What if the aliens are coming to take out our nuclear arsenal where they're like, bad?
They do it. So apparently it's fairly common that they'll just kind of like go over and just disable everything for a minute or so and be like, hey, just to let you know. So, I mean, there's like testimony and stuff like this about all this stuff. It's crazy.
This was a legit congressional hearing today. I would have watched this one. Pete's got me interested. I'm really fascinated by it. It was and I told Pete today, I said it was a funny hearing to watch, and I watch a lot of congressional hearings because I'm a nerd.
You are a nerd.
But it wasn't funny in the way that it normally is, where it's like the TikTok hearing was like, can TikTok see my face? Yes or no?
My face. No, this was opening scene of a movie.
This was like, I was funny because I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, oh, we're not even fucking around here. Right? We're not even fucking around. All right, let's go.
One more thing, if you want some documentaries, one that I would recommend is there's a guy, those of you who don't know, a lot of you probably do, but there's a guy named Bob Lazar, Boblazar. Apparently he worked at Groom Lake, reverse engineering UFOs. And one part of the documentary that I found interesting is, oh man, so he came out and mentioned element, was it 113? He mentioned a specific element that was used to power these ships, right? Wasn't known to us at the time. 15 years later, we discover it, and it has the characteristics that he talked about 15 years prior. And supposedly, he snuck off with like a pound of it and has it buried somewhere. There's a documentary about it. Yeah.
I love it.
I highly recommend it.
All right. So that was fun. Yep, aliens.
I could go on and on, but I'll save everyone.
It's fun. And again, we do this because this is the fun conversation you have in the game store. So come to Gamers Heaven and come talk about aliens with us, because aliens are fun. Right? Aliens are fun. Freaking great. All right. With that being done, we will start our next topic today. And this one is really, this is again, more in line with our normal topics. And that is that the DMs Guild, Drive-Thru RPG, and the big things have banned AI-generated content completely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right? And this is a very, very interesting development.
Has someone tried it already?
They're getting ahead of it.
Good. Quicker than Congress.
Yes. As of July 24th, the platform's AI content policy requires products containing AI art to be tagged, right? Okay. So they can filter it out of their search results.
Okay.
And outright bans work that consists of solely AI-generated art, so you have to have at least some original stuff in there.
Okay, good.
An initial ban on Dungeons & Dragons commercial content, primarily written by AI language generators, comes into effect on July 31st. DMs Guild acknowledges enforcement challenges with this, right?
Yep.
But they're doing some stuff. They're jumping ahead of it, and I think
Yeah.
they're worried about just the marketplace getting flooded with a lot of bad AI generated
Also,
stuff.
if you're looking to make money, don't generate an RPG with AI and put it on Drive-Thru RPG. Wrong well.
Probably.
That's not the well you want to fetch water from for a lot of money. Let's just be honest. I love them. I love them so much. And there's so much cool stuff on there and neat stuff. But let's not ruin things by flooding it with AI and half-assing. Mm-hmm. No one wants to play your AI generated RPG.
Additionally, they're enacting a creation method filter,
Oh?
right, which requires sellers to indicate if anything in there contains AI generated content.
Who banned it? Drive-Thru RPG.
Drive-Thru RPG. So One Bookshelf is the company that owns Drive-Thru RPG,
Okay.
and they operate the DMs Guild under license from Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay. Cool.
So, and Roll20 is part of their kind of alliance there.
Right on. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
they also own Drive-Thru Comics and Drive-Thru Fiction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Drive-Thru RPG is a good platform.
I have my issues with Drive-Thru RPG.
I'm sure.
As I've published on Drive-Thru RPG, I've worked with them. There are definitely some things I like about their site. There's some things I don't like about their platform. Putting that aside, I think this is a good move.
Yeah. You can get coloring books on
In
Drive-Thru
fact, there's an
RPG.
identical coloring book on Drive-Thru RPG.
There
It's
is.
free.
I have it. It's good.
It's free.
It's free and it's good.
So, stock art, token pats, mats, portraits, miniatures cannot be solely AI generated, and it has to be tagged.
Good. That's really good.
I
I'm
think it's
glad
going to
they
affect
did it.
sales too. I think if you tag your stuff AI generated in any way, I think people are going to filter it out
Yeah, I
in
know.
this community.
I don't know about if I would like actively filter it, but if I saw that, I'd be like, I'm not buying this. Like part of, let's say, the person you talked to the other day, them coming up with their RPG,
Yep.
right? I know that person, and I know the passion that they have for RPGs.
For their projects especially, yeah.
Yeah, and they explained their idea to me with passion, and it made sense, and I was like, this sounds great. I want to play this. I'm rooting for you. If they had said, so I generated this with AI and I asked ChatGPT what they would do and it spat out this, I would be like, yeah, it's a neat idea, okay. But if you used AI to generate that, you probably, especially in the TTRPG space, you probably don't have the willpower or the passion to push that project through.
Yes.
This is the wrong sector to try to generate via AI.
Yeah. Drive-Thru RPG, again, to answer the question in chat, they are the largest third-party digital tabletop RPG marketplace. The
Oh, you
largest.
haven't heard of? It's wonderful.
Yeah, they're big. So they sell a lot of really old stuff. They sell Identico, like a lot of people. It is the preeminent digital distributor for tabletop RPGs.
If you want a good place to go rifle through some indie TTRPGs, Drive-Thru RPG is a great place.
It can be.
You can preview the RPG books. You can look at like the first 10 pages or so and see if like the writing style's for you or whatever.
Yeah.
They'll give a blurb and there's reviews and stuff like that. I kind of like that their website still looks like it's from 2003.
They're working on a update. So if you go to their main page, they've got a thing like you can preview and use the new one, but be warned, there's bugs.
So they're putting some care. I used it a few months ago. I was like, this is clearly like it's not broke, don't fix it. We're afraid to jiggle the handle type of thing.
Yeah, they're working on it.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of Kickstarters fulfill their digital side through Drive-Thru RPG. So them taking this point, like drawing this line in the sand for Drive-Thru RPG, and I think more specifically because I think the DMs Guild would be the place where people would have the temptation to just try and crap out. Mm-hmm. Because the DMs Guild is a place where people really do, like, you can find a lot of like $1.99 modules that are fan written and stuff like that on the site.
Homebrewers Paradise.
It is a homebrewers paradise. And so here's the thing, it's a font of content, and there's just a metric ton of it. It's a place where a lot of people get discovered, right? It's a place to start kind of building out your RPG portfolio in an industry that doesn't really have a good spot to start, but to self-publish through one of these, through either Drive-Thru or the DMs Guild, and their stuff.
Good job, guys. I mean, I'm glad they were the ones to draw the line.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, no. Because we just discussed the other day, not specifically AI, but somebody's got to. If it's not going to be Wizards, somebody's got to.
Yes.
So.
Well, and again, the DMs Guild is operated under license from Wizards of the Coast, right? They've got the partnership agreement with One Bookshelf to run the DMs Guild. And again, that's why the DMs Guild website is fundamentally identical to the Drive-Thru RPG one, because they literally were like, we'll just change the branding, it's fine. So
check them out.
Yeah, I'm curious. The next thing, again, I'm glad they did this. How do you think you enforce this? That's really the hardest thing.
Like, how do you find it, or how do you flag it, or how do you like?
Let's say
enforce?
I'm a less than reputable creator.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just curious, and again, I think it's good to draw a line in the sand, so don't do this. Mm-hmm. How do you stop a less than ethical creator from just doing AI generated crap and just not saying anything, like just not tagging it?
As far as enforcement, I really think YouTube might have the way to do it, like 2 strikes, and then 3rd strike.
But I'm saying, how do they detect it?
Use AI to detect fellow AI.
Community reporting, yeah. Now, I've heard that there are some people are trying to develop some detectors specifically for ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Where you can feed text into this detector and it will be like, yes, this was written by ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I don't know how reliable it is yet. But basically, how do you go? Wow, Necrotier, thank you very much. 10 subs. We appreciate you. Thank you, Necron. There we go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you, like, if I'm the unethical creator and Drive-Thru comes to me and goes, is this AI generated? No.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to need...
Thank you, man.
It's not my last day, it's Pete's last day.
Yeah, he corrected me.
I can't leave. I'm stuck.
I can't leave. I'm too deep in.
Stuck.
Thank you, buddy.
Chained to this desk.
I appreciate it.
How do you... Yeah, we're going to have to come up with something.
Yeah, like Wild said, AI kind of sucks at hands. It's getting better. But there's... You know what AI really sucks at?
Huh.
Which works. This works for Drive-Thru RPG and TTRPGs. AI, I noticed, sucks at dice. Even simple 6-sided dice with dots, because I tried like thumbnail generation, I was curious, cannot do dice at all. Like at all. You'd be like, what are these weird dice? Also, cannot generate a TTRPG book with English on the cover. It looks like some sort of weird mix of Cyrillic and Greek writing.
AI is currently eating itself, so it's getting worse and worse. I'm actually hearing the same thing about ChatGPT, that all of the inputs into ChatGPT, like where it would solve certain math equations 6 months ago at a 98% correct rate, it's now down to like 3%.
Yeah.
It's having issues.
They're straight up, like they do test for prime numbers, right? Like, is this prime? And they'll give a ridiculous number. And ChatGPT is usually like on it, and now it's like, no, it's not prime. And mathematicians are like, it's prime number. And apparently its fail rate on that is getting very high.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like almost like a Heinlein type of thing of like a machine and AI wants to become sentient and have feelings, and then once it starts having feelings, it's like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah. Actually, specifically the law firm that they were talking about, there was a lawyer who drafted a rebuttal to a judge in a motion and with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT just made up cases. And the judge obviously just handed it to their clerk and was like, look up those cases and see if those precedents actually... Yeah. And those cases don't exist. Yeah. And so because this lawyer didn't, do his own due diligence to make sure the cases that ChatGPT was spitting out were real... Yeah.
ChatGPT and like language learning, they can't fact check. Michio Kaku talked about this. AI, like ChatGPT, can't fact check, but quantum computing can. Once we marry those two together, then you'll have like an ultimate machine.
And if you'd like to see how we view that, go read Identico. because I wrote that into Identico.
Yeah.
Like, let's see here, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, what would you do? How would you enforce it?
I'll be honest, and I understand the business drive to not do it. I actually think that drive-through lets too much stuff on. There is a lot of asset flipping and kind of, I mean,
at that size.
The problem with it has a Steam problem.
Just shovelware. Yeah.
And there's a crap ton of it.
And
so getting your stuff noticed is difficult. You've basically got to get outside of the ecosystem to drive your sales to a certain point where you're a certain level of bestseller on DTRPG. And then your stuff will really start getting noticed.
One of my friends likened it, like mentioned YouTube, what was it, 6 years ago? He was like, I feel like I'm shouting in a room of people who are also shouting.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is.
And it's, again, until you start getting into your top, like 10%, so like, Identico's a silver bestseller.
Yo.
On DTRPG.
Hell yeah.
Oh, and they put it on sale for Christmas in July. So if anybody wants to go grab it, apparently it's $11.99 right now.
That's really good.
Drive-through doesn't tell us when they do that. They just do it.
The amount of
we have to opt in, but
the amount of art in that book, of quality art, is fantastic.
So, and none of this is AI generated.
Correct. I've met one of the artists. He's an absolute joy. I'm going to put some of the onus on artists here. If you make art for TTRPGs, sign your works. Even if...
Make it surreptitious, but yes.
Yes, put it somewhere. But even if the bookmaker's like, I don't want you to sign it, push back on that and try, because it's still your art. You want to be represented, but that kind of keeps the AI-generated stuff down. And that could be a method of verification.
Yeah. I actually think we're not far from the next level of bestseller up. But again, like putting you in silver basically gets you into the top 15% of selling products.
Yeah.
On DTRPG. Again, it's the thing that will start getting you noticed more and more and more. But yeah.
Let's keep that ball rolling, baby.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Again, there's a lot of... DriveThru's got a Steam problem. They really do. So if I was going to fix it, I would start for a time. I would restrict how much
you can post at once?
I would restrict how many... I would restrict the level of posting. Yeah.
I also wonder if they...
And I would have it vetted by a human.
Yeah. I wonder if they could do something like Steam did a while ago and do like you remember the Steam Greenlight?
Yeah.
Yeah. That worked fairly well for them. I mean, you can game it, but they did discontinue it because people started gaming it. But
yeah,
I don't know if the TTRPG crowd are as united.
They're not. I can tell you that right now. They're not. Yeah, I said I would start restricting content for a time being. Right, yeah. I would slow down the content upload cycle.
Verifications.
Yep, make verifications and have a human verify it. That's probably the best way to go. All right, that ends that segment. So we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna get our other guest in here, right? Pete's gonna get him mic'd up, and then Pete will be back for our final segment today, right? So if you all have some topics that you want to hit Pete with on his last day, right? Let's talk to him. Okay, come on, folks.
Be gentle.
Be gentle. But any entertainment stuff, any movies, games, music, all that stuff, if you want to hear more about aliens, throw it into the chat and we'll get there pretty soon. So give us just a few minutes and we will be right back. So stay with us.
The balls.
Hello, folks. We're back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this really fast because it's not Gator Pete. Sean.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
How's it going?
Okay, there. That should be fixed. We're going to go back to this and back to this. It's not wanting to do it for me. All right. Well, you're going to be Gator Pete temporarily. Oh, wait. I just need to update that, don't I? Refresh. Oh, it's not wanting to refresh. I don't know. Stupid computer. Not being nice to me. Welcome to the show. Sorry, my brain was like, no, I don't want to. This is Sean. He's with Thing12 Games. Sean, you're a local board game designer. Welcome to the show. We have a bunch of your stuff in store. Also, the chat says nice hat.
Thank you.
Hat very much.
Represent. Of course, got that on there too.
Yes, I love that. That's freaking awesome. So basically, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got into designing board games?
Yes. Well, actually, as a Magic the Gathering player, I think a lot of people in the board game industry kind of like start off playing Magic. And what I realized was, as I was making decks, I was really designing an experience. And I wanted to provide that experience to more people than just myself and one other person I'm playing against. And that's when I just started like kind of home designing board games and seeing what I could do.
Okay, and how long have you been designing professionally?
Professionally, as part of Thing12, about 6 years now.
Okay, that's quite a long time.
7? I don't know, the pandemic like shifts everything.
Everything,
like, your timeline's like, what's...
Everybody's time thingy got messed up by the middle. We were like, and we went inside and things like that. Do you have a couple of games? Because the chat's now asking about some of the stuff. Do you have some games to show off to our lovely crowd?
Yeah,
go ahead and start doing that. I know we picked up Dice of Dragons recently in the store. It is here.
I've got a copy of that in here somewhere.
Time isn't real. That's true.
Time is not real. Actually, this is one of my first games here that I designed.
We've had Click Click Boom for quite a long time.
That one I came up with after playing a cooperative game where you can see each other's cards, but you can't talk about anything.
Okay.
And I like that as an idea, but I like competitive games. So I thought, well, how can you take the idea that I can see your stuff and you can see mine, but we're not supposed to talk about it, but make that competitive? Mm-hmm. And I got rid of the don't talk about it. Say whatever you want. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily believe you. I don't know if I can trust you. And I thought, well, okay, what kind of game is going to go well with that? What if I use something like Russian roulette, where like the idea that you can see down the barrel of a gun and you can see all the things that the person has, and then you're basically picking things for them and setting them up and trying to like sabotage people. And then one of my other ones that I designed was Seals of Cthulhu.
Into the store. Can you tell us a little more about Seals of Cthulhu?
Yeah, Seals.
We have
Seals
it here.
Is so cool. So Seals has an interesting backstory to it. The idea behind it was I wanted to put players into a position where you have something I want, I have something you want. How do we figure that out? It's an interesting space, just decision making and trying to like out-position each other. So I designed the game and I hated it. It
really?
was terrible. And I took all my cards, went to the garbage can, and I was getting ready to throw them away. I thought, well, you know what, I can reuse these cards for something. So I put it away for about a year. And I was going off to a game night and I was getting some stuff out, and then I saw those cards. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. And I just kind of looked at it for a moment, and then I had this moment of inspiration. So I ran back to the table and I marked up the cards, and then I went off to game night. And like, before we start playing, we got to play this game. I got to see if it's fun or interesting. And it was. I fixed the thing that it was missing. So the idea behind Seals is that one player is an investigator on the forces of good. The other person is a cultist on the forces of evil. They're trying to destroy the world. And you're going to do a blind bidding game. So you'll be putting a card down, and I'm offering you something. Maybe I want to get this card. Maybe I don't want to get this card. Maybe I want you to have it, because there's some bad cards in there as well. So then you have to decide, do you want it for what I'm giving you, or are you going to try and go over the top of me and offer me something more? Now, maybe it's something I wanted, but what you're offering me, maybe that's pretty good. Oh, okay, I'll give this up.
So there's a lot of like interesting decisions going back and forth. Once you flip that card over, now it's available to be victory points at the end. It's something that you can bid with, and if you have both halves of a card, because you have half of mine and I have half of yours, if one of us has both halves, then we get a special ability. There's elder gods, there's all kinds of different like potions and artifacts and stuff like that. It plays in about 20 minutes, so it's almost like chess in 20 minutes.
So you can like do multiple rounds and stuff like that, switch sides, and like, okay, and you were the closest last time. My turn to murder you.
Yep. So there's 4 different characters, 4 different investigators, 4 different cultists. There's 6 different elder gods. So, and the elder gods really change up how you play because they have some really nasty things that happen. Plus, we put a couple extra rules that are available on BGG that you can download. There's one that is you play with only the elder gods, and it's super crazy and insane. And then there's one where you play with 2 elder gods, so you guarantee that one is going to come out and be summoned.
Okay.
So going with this Cthulhu game, I like Cthulhu stuff. I always wanted to do one, so we really pushed theme on this. So when you look at this game, it looks like this old artifact, found in some
like a Necronomicon type
exactly
book.
Some weird thing. So you have to unchain the book to get access to it.
Yeah, hold up just a little higher. There we go.
And then if you pop the magnet lock on it, now you can open up the book. And inside, there's a list of people that have checked this book out throughout history. Sometimes through good things, sometimes through negative things. Stephen King had checked this book out.
Nice.
The time that he was hit by a truck. Oppenheimer, very timely, was had checked this book timely. Out. And then there's some information in here that really kind of delves into the story that we're telling with this. And then inside of this hollowed out book are all the game components. There's a lot more that's to be discovered within this game as well. So there's some interesting things that are can be found for the inquisitive person.
See? And this is why you all need to come get this game, because it's there. Don't forget, it is here. And I agree with the chat. The packaging on those is phenomenal. What else do you got? I know we just picked up another thing too. Let's keep going with this.
Yes, we've got. So I got one of our first games that we did was Dice of Crowns.
Yep.
So this is a game that can play up to 6 players. Comes in this metal tin, which you can put in your pocket. And the designer of this game, Badger Roulette, he came to me. We were working together, and his idea was like, hey, I was going down to Portland. I came with this game idea. He was a fan of zombie dice, but he wanted a little more control over things. And he has a 3D printer. So he 3D printed up all the dice. We sat down and played, and I really liked where he was going with it. I'm like, hey, this is really cool. If you want to work with me as, Thing12 Games, which we were just getting started, I'd love to publish this. I know some really cool artists, and we can just make this look really cool. So he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we did. We put it up on Kickstarter, did really well. We're on our second printing of this guy.
And again, you've got multiple in this Dice of series.
Yes. So the Dice of Games all come in this tin. They all
Hold it
come
up a little higher for them.
Sure. They all come in this metal tin here.
Which is great for traveling. I love that.
Yes.
Because I just travel a lot.
The rules are printed on Revlar, which is non-tearable and non-water soluble. So you can literally take and play this anywhere because all the components inside
Waterproof.
are waterproof. So we've got, the chunky plastic dice, plastic tokens, and Dice of Crowns comes with a crown. Which, of course, if someone wins the crown, that's what everyone's fighting over. If you win the crown, you're going to put that on like, I'm the winner. The concept of the game is basically, I'm going to roll dice. If I get a scroll, I get to hand it to another player. I have to hand it to another player. They're going to roll. The things that they get could come back and help me. They could get things that can hurt me or hurt other players. So there's a lot of negotiation that goes on in the game. Again, it plays really quick, like 15 to 20 minutes. And it's super simple to teach. I've taught people that their only exposure to games were like Monopoly, and they played Yahtzee.
Okay.
And they pick it up within a round, and everybody's playing and have a lot of fun. Because you're always handing dice to other players, like everybody's engaged at the table, which is really cool. So we realized that what the system was required a certain number of dice, a certain type of feel to the game. So we did a second game called Dice of Pirates. So Dice of Pirates works in some similar ways where there's a good symbol, a bad symbol, a symbol which requires you to hand dice to other players, and then a secondary ability. So in Dice of Crowns, I get to be able to re-roll bad dice. In Dice of Pirates, the secondary ability is I get to attack another player. So that's how one of the ways you can win in this game is you're going to go out and try and get gold in the sea, or you can go attack someone and steal their gold from them.
Which is obviously how I'm going to play. I'm just going to steal everybody
Exactly.
else's.
It's piracy, right? The same thing with the rules that are non-tearable and non-water soluble. And the 3D component with this game is the pirate ship.
Love it.
Now the pirate ship is kind of cool. So we didn't want to have, these aren't just like reskins of each other. They really feel different. Dice of Crowns feels like, we're having to make alliances, but we're going to backstab each other. Dice of Pirates is very much, we're pirates. We're going to attack each other. There's no alliance here. So we also wanted them to be able to work together. So if you have Dice of Pirates and Dice of Crowns, you can play a special game called the Pirate King, and the pirate ship actually fits inside the crown.
And this is why you should get all of them.
Dice of Dragons.
Which is the one we just picked up.
Which is the one you just picked up. Do I have the copy here? Yes. So Dice of Dragons also works in that same system. So it comes in a metal tin and comes with non-terrible rules. But this one is a little bit different. So this is a fully cooperative game. So you'll be working together to basically take out a dragon. So the 3D component in this game is this dragon coin, this really thick, chunky dragon coin, heads and tails of the dragon. If the heads is up, the dragon can attack. If the tails are up, then the dragon's out of commission for that round. So we also get player cards. So your cards are basically your abilities. Everybody's going to have a different ability versus like maybe you have a guy that's more strength related. He's going to be the attacky person, or you've got the damage sponge. You have the wizard that's sort of the glass cannon. Takes a while to build up, but then he's super powerful. It takes, if he can survive that long. Also comes with this special dragon die that tracks how strong the dragon is, and the goal is to basically take all the gold from the dragon because that's his life.
Okay.
So and when you take gold from the dragon, you're adding it to yourself. So you're basically like pulling life to yourself. If you're sharing gold from people, you're basically sharing your life force with other people. So you really have to work together because at the end of the round, the dragon's going to be attacking someone. So you really have to figure out like how do we make this happen. There's a bunch of different dragons that we also offer, which we brought to your store. So we have these, and obviously these won't fit in the tin, but like these big giant chunky dragon meeples. They have special cards and special abilities as the dragon powers up. Really nasty things happen to the players. So if you're like, okay, we figured the first guy out, we want something a little more challenging, you've got more dragons that you can use.
Very nice.
We have a couple additional characters that have some really cool abilities
So that gives
as well.
it good replayability too.
Oh yeah, there's just tons of different replayability. And just like how Pirates interacts with Crowns, there's a special game you can play if you mix dragons with crowns, and a special game you can play if you mix dragons with pirates. So they all interact together in various ways.
There you go. And see, that just gives everybody a reason to get all of them.
Audience, we want there to be a reason to have all
of them.
three. Not only do they feel different, but there's like stuff you can do with them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that really adds a lot of additional value because again, for the value you're getting for that one game, when you're getting all three, you get like it's more than the sum of its parts at that point because you've got so many different types of games you can play by mixing crowns and pirates and crowns and dragons. And
they're
that
easy
stuff.
to teach to people too, so you can just like take it somewhere and like, hey, let's play a game.
Chat wants to know if you thought about putting pirates, dragons, and crowns all together.
Yes, and I can't go into too much, but we are thinking about something with a much broader, bigger scope.
Oh, that's going to be fun. All right, so you have to come back and share with us once you have that figured out.
Yes.
So you've been in the board game industry for a while now.
Yeah.
And I know, so I don't do board games, I do tabletop RPGs. That's my publishing background. But this is a rough industry. It's a beast to break into. It's a beast to get any level of success. There are a lot of people who do this, for lack of a better term, they're hobbyists,
Yeah.
right? And it changes the market because there are a lot of people who don't care about making it a business or doing things like that. Like, what about this industry? And again, we talk a lot about industry stuff on this show. You know, what have you seen that is both the best and kind of worst parts of this industry?
I think one of the best parts is that there are a lot of companies that are willing to work together. There's a more cooperative feel to it than I really expected.
Like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of
Yeah,
feel.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, because like, if you're a gamer, like you don't just play one single game, right? You're going to play multiple games.
Absolutely.
So my success is not the lack of success from another publisher. They can be just as successful or more than I am, and vice versa. So a lot of times when we go to conventions, we'll have other publishers' games there. You know, we make deals with different people. Like, oh, you're over on the East Coast. Well, we'll carry your titles with us when we do West Coast conventions, and vice versa. So
that's
like
really
we're
cool.
helping each other out and kind of raising the tide for everybody, which is really, really cool. There's competition, but not in that sort of like all versus none competition.
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, what is something that you wish you could improve about the industry?
I think a better understanding of how products get to people. We do everything through Kickstarter so far. There's one game we're working on that we're going to do straight to publishing, but there's a lot of folks that, to make it happen, they just use Kickstarter. And there is the Kickstarter community, there's some negative things with it. Like just the challenge of getting a game to someone. You know, you start your Kickstarter campaign and you price your product based on how much it's gonna cost to get made and how much it's gonna cost to ship to people. And then 2 years later, you know, by the time everything's finally done and it's done through manufacturing and it's ready to get shipped out, shipping costs may have changed. And we saw that happen through the pandemic, and we're seeing it happen now. Like the cost of shipping is just crazy expensive. And now we're seeing publishers that were like, we priced it at X and now shipping is Z, and we're going to lose our shirts if we just put it out like that. And so they have to do things like, we're going to we'll subsidize half of it if you guys can subsidize the other half, or, you know, like different things. And some people get really, really pissed off about it. And I understand that, but also like there's a reality to existence, right? Like it's rough.
I find that it's that expectations management and things like that.
Yeah.
And I find that, and having to Kickstarter once myself, like Kickstarter's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yep.
Right? It has democratized the ability to get games out here, right?
Yeah.
20 years ago, there was no way to self-publish a game really, right? Unless you either
Yeah.
A, already had money, or B, were able to pitch it to publishers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And those were your two options, 20 years ago. Now, if you've got a good concept and you know how to sell it, you can throw it up on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or one of these other platforms and fund it and get it made.
Yeah.
Right? The two things that frustrate me, though, is, again, one is that kind of that audience expectation. Right? Especially on Kickstarter as a platform. And the other thing is it also makes it super hard to get noticed.
Yes.
It seems like there's, and I'm sure there actually is. And I know Kickstarter put out a report a couple years ago where they were saying that indie tabletop had overtaken every other individual category as the largest fundraiser on Kickstarter. So it's like there's a new Kickstarter every single stinking day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's, again, I'm glad for the democratization, but with the audience, there's an expectations management thing. There's been some spectacularly high-profile project collapses on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And so it's hard as a publisher to go, look, when we did this, we priced shipping as X, and now it's Z. And so now they're like, you're getting that backlash because of the people who came before you, who had some really high-profile collapses. A Cthulhu-related product being one of those that everybody in the industry knows about.
Yeah.
I find that I struggle with Kickstarter. my other issue with Kickstarter has also, and this is again one of those like for the people that are kind of at that top cream edge of the indie community, it feels like they're using it more like a pre-sale platform as opposed to an actual fundraising platform.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, do you get that sense too?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like there's definitely some companies that they could actually put their products out normally, but
just do it on your website.
Yeah. But I understand it though, because it's a way to gauge the market, right?
Yeah.
Like, is this really going to do as well as we think, and will it or not, right? And so it does, or it doesn't. I don't have as much of an issue with those folks because the bigger ones, they actually bring people in.
They bring people to the platform. That's true.
Right. So like there are
that.
people that have like backed our stuff that I'm sure would not have if they hadn't backed, publisher X in this big game that's got a $1 million or $2 million. There's more eyes there, and the more eyes coming in, they also see like the smaller publishers as well. So we get a boost from them.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
And I back a lot of stuff, so I'm like, I'm in the same wash that everybody else is when you have, like, I've had games that I've backed and like, well, that game is never going to arrive to me. That's just lost money. Yay, that's awesome.
Sometimes you get a cool surprise like 2 years later where you're like opening the mail and you're like, oh, hey, it's here.
I forgot about this. Cool.
What do you know?
It's Christmas.
Yeah, it's like a little bonus surprise. I like that. I think that I'm sure you've seen this. I think the distribution system in tabletop is broken.
Ugh, yeah.
Right. That to me is the biggest thing, and whether because the distribution system for RPGs and board games and card games are all the same, right?
Yeah.
It all falls under like 6 companies.
Yep.
Right, and getting a meeting with those guys is nigh impossible.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, how many copies have you sold? If that number's less than 5,000, like.
Yeah,
they don't even want to talk to you.
100%. So we've been to Gamma a number of years, and we've had some dealings with some distributors, but because we're still smaller, some folks just won't even talk to us. So that's why we started doing things like working with other publishers, in other places of the United States, and just sharing each other's stuff, because we can get each other's things in front of people without having to, deal with the whole like, you're a distributor, will you talk to us? No, cool, great, how do we get this out? So
yeah,
finding creative ways around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that I think it frustrates is, again, because of kind of how the industry's done, like game stores are a font of discovery, in my opinion, right? There's a lot of people who come into our store who are trying to find new games, right? And they find new games here because, again, it's a different experience than like scrolling through Amazon. Like if you type board games into Amazon, like shopping there is going to be difficult for like, I want a new game to play. Whereas going to the game store, right? Like that's where you really discover new games and new publishers and things like that. And I think that there's an issue also, again, because of the distribution system, where it's getting harder and harder for game stores to compete.
Yeah.
Again, partially because Amazon, Target, like I have mixed feelings on Target. 'Cause Target has been, for a lot of mid-tier indie publishers, Target has been a godsend, right? Because Target's they've really stepped up their game. They're not just carrying a monopoly anymore, right?
Yeah.
But conversely, it makes it difficult for game stores to compete. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's like, how do we do this? Like, I wish there was a better solution, because again, I think that these ecosystems need to exist.
We're starting to see some. I think is it Indie Pro? There's another publisher that's local, at least to the Pacific
Indie Pro.
Northwest.
We've worked with them.
They actually carry a lot of stuff that like a lot of the distributors don't.
In fact, I think that's where we got Click Click Boom originally.
Yeah.
Was through Indie Pro.
Looked like Chet was asking how to support smaller game companies. Really, like if you're on social media and you're playing one of their games, talking about it, saying, hey, I played, Thing12 Games, I played Dice of Crowns, tagging them and taking pictures and all that kind of stuff, that helps other people see us.
Because it's also not us advertising, it's not the publishers advertising.
Exactly. It's someone that actually likes it and talking about
it's
it.
much more effective, I think, as brand awareness. Let's see here. Question from chat, what's your favorite game?
What's my favorite game? Gosh. I'm a big fan of Orleans.
Okay.
And I've got my copy pretty blinged out. The only thing I don't have right now is a better bag system, but I've got like the the plastic tokens. I've got the wood insert.
Nice.
I've got some metal money. I've got like upgraded the resources that you have in the game. Like, yeah, I've blinged that game out a lot. It's just a really cool game. I love that one a lot.
That's awesome. All right, chat, let me know if you have any more questions here for Sean while we're waiting. So, I think there was one more thing I was going to ask you. Besides the, obviously, you said you're working on a
Yes.
like a coordination of crowns, dragons, and pirates. Do you guys have anything else in the pipeline that you want to
Yes, actually, we
pop
do.
up? What do you got?
Let's see. I got
That's
one
coming
in here. So, matches. This box is a little beat up. This is not the final box at all. The art is pretty close to final art. So, like, this whole 3-color design is very much a part of it. Matches takes place in the Seals of Cthulhu universe.
Okay, so same kind of story worlds.
Yes.
Okay.
So the story for this is that there's this match factory that burned down, and in the rubble was this actual box of matches, and it was in pristine condition. Just weird. So as you go through the components that are in there, it starts to explain the story of like why this happened and what was going on, and there's some surprises inside as well. The gameplay is almost trick-taking-esque,
Okay.
where you have these, it's a card game. So you've got cards that have matches on them. This is not the absolute latest version. We've made a couple of fixes to this, but the idea is that these cards are going to have matches on them. One person is going to play a card down, and it's going to have a number on it, like, say, a 10. Now, everyone else, to stay in the round, will have to play a 10. They either play a 10. If they do, they match, and the points for the end of the round get higher, or they play a series of cards that equals 10.
Okay.
So I could play 2 5s, for example. At any point, if I decide I don't want to continue playing cards, I want to save the rest of my hand, then I can say, okay, I'm out. The first person that bows out gets a point, and they're going to be the leader for the next round. And any matches that they have on their side, any pairs that they've created, they'll get points for those. So it's possible to get more points by playing a bunch of cards that are all matches of each other and get more points than the person that won the round. There's a real interesting
That's an interesting mechanic. And
Yeah.
what's inspiring you guys to do these kind of in the in-universe stuff?
So the person that designed this actually designed, it was called Matches. We have a universe thing that we're trying to do with this, and we want kind of a story that we want to tell. And there's going to be another game after this that will also be in that same universe, and they'll start linking together. We like creating experiences.
I was going to say, that I don't think I've ever heard of a board game publisher going, especially with board games,
Yeah.
going, these are all disparate games that can be played separately, but they all take place in this lore universe.
Yeah.
That's
And there's ways
together.
that they tie together. Just like Crowns and Pirates tie together. There's things that will link this back to Seals as well.
That's really cool.
So we try to do things that like I don't really see happening within the board game space as far as like your experience with the game.
That's super neat. Is that going to go to Kickstarter soon?
That's on Kickstarter, or we're going into manufacturing. There's a couple last things that we need to get done. They pushed back on us to fix a couple things, and we should start getting the first samples. I hope within like 2 months or so.
Can people pre-order it on your website?
Yeah, they can go. Well, they can go to Kickstarter and pre-order there, but. I think that's probably the easiest way is just go to Kickstarter and look at Matches Game.
And last thing, because somebody brought it up and I was going to do this anyway, where can people find you on like social media and stuff like that? Like where can they follow what Thing12 Games is up to?
So we're at Thing12 Games, basically on all the different social media platforms. So on Twitter, on Instagram, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. That's where we're at.
All right. And do you all have a website?
We do. It's currently getting worked on. So when you first go to our website, it looks jank and there's like lorem ipsum. So ignore that, but there is a web store that you can get off the main page, and it's just thing12games.com.
That's awesome. Well, Sean, thank you for joining us today. Y'all come in and grab these the Seals of Cthulhu and Dice of Dragons and all this stuff. We have it in stock right here at Gamers Heaven PNW.
And I think I'm going to be doing some demos with
I think
in your
we are.
store,
I
right?
forget. Is that Sunday?
Yeah, it's this Sunday.
All right, so Sunday. If you'd like to come in and play with Sean, and all y'all in the chat, and I see quite a few of you. Thank
Come
you
in
all
and
for
kick my
hanging
butt
out
at one
here
of the
today.
games.
Yeah, you can come in on Sunday and play some games with Sean. So we'll see you then. All right, folks. Once again, we're going to be right back, so stay with us.
Thanks, everybody.
Pete's going to come back. Again, if you have any questions for Gator Pete, it's Gator Pete's final stream. If you have any questions for him or anything you want to go over, drop it into the chat. We will put it into chat topics. Other than that, and we may go a little longer today because it is Pete's final stream. So give us like 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll be right back. What's up, everybody? We're back. We're
Welcome.
back, and it's Gator Pete again.
Welcome.
Oh yeah, let me fix that. Oh, you no signaled it.
Oh.
There it goes. I got it. Sit down. No, Gator Pete, no. Ah. Ooh. So it looks like we're in a bloody earthquake now. If corn oil comes from corn and vegetable oil comes from vegetables, where does baby oil come from? Ba-dum-tsh. Thank you for that.
Babies.
Thank you for that. All right, so how did you like that interview with Thing12?
What's that?
How'd you like that interview with Thing12?
It was great. I actually, while you guys were talking and Sean was showing off Dice of Dragons, I went and bought Dice of Dragons. Well, it first came in and I was like, what is this? It's so like, it's this.
Yeah, I don't know. I love it because it's small, it's compact, really great for just taking places.
Yeah. I got to chat with him for a couple of minutes on the in-between, and yeah, dude's just constantly working on games and stuff. There's some cool stuff coming up.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's really, really great.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, so chat, send us your questions if you've got any stuff. We had a nice chat with our UPS guy right before the show today. Apparently they're still working on contract stuff, but they're feeling pretty good, which is good because otherwise we wouldn't be able to restock.
Yeah,
We'd be in trouble.
Moving of physical goods. Who would have thought? Important.
It's kind of critical, ladies and gentlemen. What's your favorite game?
My favorite game? Like,
Let's go all three categories. Let's start with board game.
Board game? I always like Catan, of course, but we got snowed in when I visited with some friends in Scotland, and I have a friend who is a huge board game nerd. Like, he has a library of like 300 games. Mm-hmm. It's like on par with what we have here in the store. He has a board game room, and he brought Scythe, which takes some setting up. Yeah, so Scythe is definitely up there. I would love to play it again, and I tied for that. Again, takes a lot of setup. Gloomhaven, it's just cool.
Yeah, Gloomhaven's really
Takes
cool
a lot of setup, but it's very fun.
All right,
very
favorite tabletop RPG.
Tabletop RPG, Identico. And a close second is Monster of the Week.
Monster of the Week is solid.
Yeah, Monster of the Week is. There's so many people at ECCC that were like, "Oh, I run Powered by the Apocalypse," or like PBTA, Monster of the Week got me into tabletop RPGs, and they would come by the Identico table and we were like, "This seems like a good next step." I'm like, there you go.
That's perfect. And then favorite video game.
That's a tough one. If time isn't a factor.
Yes.
Yakuza series.
The whole Yakuza series. We've talked about that game a lot on here. We've never kind of deep dived this. What is it about the Yakuza series that you love so much?
So Yakuza 0 was my introduction to it, and it's a fantastic game. It's very Sega. I'll say that. Like, it's open world, but you're in Kamurocho, which is like this suburb of like Tokyo and stuff, and it's always in Kamurocho. And it's got like this living city where you can talk to NPCs, and it's got, the lights and everything like that. But in true Sega form, there's mini games. There's a claw machine.
The chat is mentioning the karaoke.
Yes, it has karaoke, a karaoke mini game in every one of them. And I used to stream a lot. And part of it was I would be playing the game with my sunglasses on, also singing the songs. And they all have like their own cutscenes, and there's some story. And you can see this hardened gangster Kiryu, and he's singing his heart out at the karaoke place, just like letting out some of his demons and stuff like that. It has every type of mini game you could want, given Sega's history. And it's just a rich story. There's also some nani and like twists and turns. And if you don't like, it has active combat, so it's got that Sega fighting stuff that you do. You can pick up a bike and hit somebody. I joked in Yakuza 6, you can beat an MFer with another MFer because you can pick a guy up and sling him against another gangster and beat him up. And then Yakuza Like a Dragon, if you don't like active combat, is turn-based, but it's hilarious. Yeah.
Is it on Xbox, Pete?
It's on Game Pass, yeah.
It's on Game Pass. See, that's where I
Yeah.
played it. I actually, after you talked about it, I downloaded the first Yakuza. Gameplay-wise, not my favorite. The style of combat and stuff, and it is very Sega.
It is very sick. Which one did you play?
I don't remember.
Because
it was
they're all
three-quarter view kind of thing.
They're all very different. Yakuza 0, eventually you get breakdance fighting as a style.
Nice.
And it's pretty cool. Yeah. I would suggest, if you like turn-based combat, Like a Dragon's probably a good introduction because it is English voice acted. But the Yakuza series goes all the way back to the early PS2 days, and Mark Hamill actually voiced some characters in the first two. So,
which I think we mentioned on a stream a while ago.
That was the only time they did English VO.
Did you ever play Sleeping Dogs?
I did. Sleeping Dogs is good. If you have $4, go buy Sleeping Dogs. It's awesome. The fighting reminds me, okay, think of Grand Theft Auto, but with like the fighting of, you know how the Arkham series was kind of noted at the time for like targeting and making combat, like hand-to-hand combat just easier. Sleeping Dogs has that type of combat with countering and stuff like that, but also you unlock like martial arts stances and like different attacks and stuff like that, and it's open world and has a good story. I don't know. I can't say enough good things about Sleeping Dogs. It's on sale all the time for like $4 or $5. Totally worth it.
What system was it on originally?
Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. They did the round.
They did the full rundown.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know. It's just
solid.
It's just solid. If you're like I like open world games like Grand Theft Auto, but it's a little much, or like I don't want to spend $60. If you like, if you want Saints Row, but with a little more serious tone, yeah, get Sleeping Dogs. You should experience it for about 5 to 10 hours at least. Like, it's just a good experience.
I may have to give that one a try. I've been looking for something new to play to hold me over until Starfield comes out in September.
It's pretty fun.
And I've been struggling finding something.
I found a game the other day that I know I was telling you about, Bookwalker.
Yeah.
That one's super cool. You are tasked with going into these books. I won't give you the full story, but you're tasked with going into the books and getting the MacGuffin out of these books and delivering it to a client.
And I know you said you're not and I'm not a big visual novel person either. I was playing one recently, and I need to actually go back and finish it, called Mendax Protocol.
I've not heard of it.
It ended up popping up in my Twitter feed a bunch. And it's you play as an AI. Right?
Okay.
So it's like a cyberpunk futuristic city.
Yeah.
And you are the AI that's being put in charge of the city. Right? But the way that they're doing it is they're trying to teach you and see what you do.
Okay.
So, like, they gradually kind of bolt on functions to you, right? And so there's a point where they're like, okay, to see what happens here, we're going to have you work with this dude who runs a food truck. Right?
Wonderful.
In the downtown area.
Wonderful.
And you're going to advise him on the best way to run his food truck. Right? And like there's all these various characters and stuff like that, and it's about you being an AI learning to run this massive metroplex.
What's it called?
Mendax Protocol.
And is it a visual novel or
yeah,
is it...
yeah.
Okay.
It's on Steam.
Okay.
And again, it's like $8 or $9. But the art style is absolutely The art style is phenomenal.
I'm into that.
The voice acting in it is good.
Okay.
Right, because it's fully voice acted.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And again, like the story gets very, very in depth. Like you end up bonding with one of your creator's daughters, and like there's politics, and like you end up advising this politician guy.
That's the thing is visual novels, despite being, a lot of them aren't voice acted, but they do tend to focus more on the story because it is a visual novel, and some of them have fantastic stories. I'm just like. Whew.
Yeah.
Reading gets kind of tedious for me anyway.
So again, this one's voice acted.
Yeah,
I think it's very choose your own adventure-y visual novel. But yeah, if you haven't tried Mendax Protocol, I would recommend it.
Some things I'd recommend to you, 2 games. Ruiner, if you haven't played Ruiner. It's good. It's a cyberpunk universe, very neon, everything. Sort of a roguelike bullet hell type of thing. Pretty cool. Another one in that vein that's co-op is Ascend. That's pretty fun. They're all these are like 3/4 down
View.
isometric sort of
Yeah.
view, but they're like very active combat. I think Enter the Gungeon, but in a cyberpunk world.
All right, next question. Favorite fighting game?
Favorite fighting game? So that's one thing. Fighting games have
Let's go
been
all time.
that's been the one genre that I've
Just never.
forever just been like, it's not really for me. Masaki's been trying to get me into it. Smash, which there's some debate, like, is it a fighting game or a party game? Smash. What was another one that I enjoyed? Tekken, back like the old Tekken days. Oh, you know what? My favorite fighting game, Ready to Rumble.
Oh, jeez.
Those were so
I figured
fun.
you were going to go like a wrestling game.
You know
Like
what?
the old WWE games?
So actually, I did purchase my consoles when I was a kid based on what wrestling game was coming out. That was the game that I definitely saved up my money for. So like WWF Attitude. There's an ECW game, a WCW game. I eventually bought the N64 for the WCW NWO Revenge. WrestleMania 2000, yeah. But I don't consider those fighting games, but I guess I should.
Someone's going in with the deep cuts. Shaq Fu. Jeez. Are we going old school?
If
or
anybody
what?
says Shaq Fu, they're lying.
Dude, I remember Shaq Fu. That move, oh man. That game.
Until like the last 10 years of the early access, that was hailed as like the worst game of all time.
Oh man, that was funny. Favorite Star Wars game?
My favorite Star Wars game. It used to be Knights of the Old Republic
The original KOTOR.
when I had time. Recently, man, Jedi Fallen Order is just so good. It's just fun. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what other ones have been of note to me. Those are the two that stand out, definitely. Shadows of the Empire was really fun when
way
I was
back
a
in the
kid,
day, yeah.
but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But that was certainly like, good job on them for pushing stuff forward. That was on another level.
Visual novel. So it's a brand of game that, again, depending on the type of game, right?
Yeah.
Basically plays out like just what it sounds, right? It is a story that you are reading or being told, right? And again, in the case of Mendax Protocol, it's fully voice acted.
Yep.
But you most often will have a series of choices that lead you down different paths in the story.
They're lower barrier of entry for new game developers because it's text. It's if you've seen the games that have like a text box and then art of a character next to it, and then the animation is like and they'll have a scene of the background behind it. That's pretty much the basics of it, and it tells out like a novel. Your choices matter. Dream Daddy's a good one.
Yeah.
That's developed by the Game Grumps actually. It's wonderful.
It's not for everyone, right?
No.
I like them for their accessibility because again, it doesn't require like hand-eye coordination or anything like. It's the type of game that you
can
take
relax. If you have like reaction time issues, or you're just trying to relax, or you don't want to have to be coked up to play Call of Duty reaction time, and you want a great story,
Is it like a motion comic? Kinda.
Visual novels. And I almost would put the Shadowrun games in visual novel. Just about. It's a weird mix of XCOM and very heavy visual novel elements.
Yeah, there's some good stuff there.
They're starting to blend the genres and add in. You're seeing more visual novel like adoption into games.
Yeah,
now.
It's definitely an opportunity. Like if you're a new game developer, Pete's absolutely right. Like it's definitely one I am not.
Hateful boyfriend.
Yeah, hot-to-full boyfriend. I love you, Colonel Sanders. Yes, there was one of those.
I haven't played that one. I need to. Yeah. What about you? What's your favorite Star Wars game? Yeah, I know.
I was a big fan of SWTOR, the actual MMO. I was a huge fan of SWTOR. I loved KOTOR.
Yeah.
KOTOR 2 I actually liked in spite of its obvious flaws.
Bastila.
As an overall, that's tough. It's probably a toss-up between KOTOR and SWTOR.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time on Star Wars: The Old Republic. A lot.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say Fallen Order or Survivor or Squadrons.
So I like Fallen Order, and actually, you reminded me of what my actual favorite Star Wars game is, because it's been so long since it's been out. My actual favorite Star Wars game is X-Wing versus TIE Fighter.
Okay.
The original X-Wing versus TIE Fighter.
I was wondering.
The X-Wing TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter PC Sim series from back in the 90s was the first time I played online gaming on the internet, right? Was X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I was part of a guild, right?
Did you play Galaxies?
I did briefly. I did not like Galaxies.
Interesting. It has a cult following. Like,
it does,
people
and
love
there's some good stuff about it, but I thought that it lost me at the method to become a Jedi, which I thought was.
I was
dumb.
wondering I knew someone was going to pop in with Rogue Squadron. I hear that one all the time.
I did like Star Wars Squadrons, and I think it is one of the best flight sim ones that I've played, and the fact that it's in Star Wars is amazing. It almost made me buy a VR headset.
That's what Joe said. I think Joe's complaint was just that it's too short.
The story is too short, and the multiplayer, the learning curve on multiplayer is way high.
Yeah, I bet.
Right? You are going to get smoked the first few times you play multiplayer.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by you have to be coked up for a certain game. Like Call of Duty, the Battle Royale, Blackout, I enjoy. But as soon as I hopped into like multiplayer, like actual kill team maps, I'm at 26, I was like, I'm too old.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
I don't have the time to put into the effort to be like really, really good at squadrons like I did when I was 14 with X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. But I love the X-Wing TIE Fighter series from back then. Those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Star Wars FPS. Yeah, some of the Star Wars FPS stuff has been good, but it's either great or it's garbage. What's the best way to support you in your future endeavors? Go watch Neon Trails.
You can go watch Neon Trails at twitch.tv/Identico every other Tuesday. So not next Tuesday, but the next Tuesday. Also, I guess when I come by the store, don't ask me what I'm doing here. That's been a thing. It was like it's happened before, which I understand where it comes from, but also like there was a time whenever I came by to play Monster of the Week and like 5 people were like, "What the heck are you doing here?" Or like, "Hey, can you help?" Like, I'm here to. I also want to enjoy games here. Let me play a game. Don't come to my table while I'm playing a game and ask me to make you chicken tenders.
Yes. Do not do that. Don't.
Let me play a game. How about that? I've tried to say that in the least rude way possible.
Yes.
Thank you for the biddies. Explain coked up. There's a meme about like you needing to be a 19-year-old kid on Adderall in order to be competitive in FPS games. Actually, Adderall is
one of the terms
problem
where
in FPS.
the term Twitch shooters came from.
Yeah, it actually, for a while, and it may still be, it actually is kind of a problem, Adderall in competitive FPS games sometimes. In the big scene, or people trying to move up the ladder. Yeah,
it's not good for you.
Nostrils.
And I am not that good at Call of Duty. Again, like, I think there's also a time function there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if I had time to spend, 20, any skill you want to develop, if you're going to spend 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week doing it, you're going to get better.
I mean, when I played competitive Overwatch, man, I was chugging through tubs of G Fuel to stay competitive. I mean, unhealthy amounts of caffeine. I've never done cocaine, and I don't plan to. But yeah, look at these vacuums. I would die of an overdose so fast as everything would just in the vicinity. Yes, I am a main. Yep. Deal with it.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I never got really as good as I could. Like StarCraft 2 was like the closest I got to being like trying to do competitive. And I got to silver tier and I got stuck. I couldn't get over that.
The skill ceiling on that is so high for StarCraft.
Oh yeah, it was
crazy.
Massive.
It's crazy. Yeah, I still need to play StarCraft. It's got a lot to live up to because the original Dawn of War to me is just so good, so good.
Steroids.
That's honestly any competitive space that's big enough and there's money on the line.
There's going to be performance enhancing drugs.
Yep. It's a thing. It is a thing. Unless you're in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in which case you smoke weed before a competition. Apparently, that's their performance-enhancing drug.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, anytime you see it, that's why you see it in baseball, football, all professional sports.
Yeah.
Performance-enhancing drugs are an issue.
And here's the thing, Ishtantal says, like, that's exactly why I haven't played multiplayer games for the last 15 years. Yeah, okay, I'm going to say this because I've been struggling with it. It's okay to enjoy things and not need to be the ultimate tier of it or try to make money off of it. That's kind of it's an issue that I have with my upbringing and everything, of just needing to be the best at whatever I'm doing. Like, oh, I enjoyed this hobby for an hour. How can I monetize this and be the best? It doesn't have to be that way. And I wish that society in general could just...
That's why you play private matches with your friends.
Bam!
Right? Does art have performance enhancers? Heroin? Mushrooms? LSD?
Those could certainly bring
Weed?
about some loosening of the creative juices if you're trained on it. I actually, back when I lived in Kentucky, had some moonshine, and sometimes I'm anxious sitting down to do art. And I was like, I'm going to take a sip of this moonshine. It's
Who
moonshine.
can function with those? That's the weird thing about some of those thingies is I've known a lot of people, like, that was the only way they were functional.
What? By?
Was by shooting up or whatever and things like that. I mean, it's sad, but that's
how you develop a habit. But yeah, if you drink too much, your lines get real loose. Too loose.
Yeah. Couch games are the best. Again, I think that one of the things that we've done a lot on this show is saying, like, hey, don't yuck anybody's yum.
Yeah.
Some people really like casual games. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the majority of the video game industry is the casual game market.
Yeah.
That's
true. That's true.
I don't yuck anybody's yum about that stuff, and don't take anything we're saying, and don't shit on people who play easy. Look, there's stuff. When I first played Fallen Order, when I got about 3/4 of the way through the game, I pushed it back to story mode because I just couldn't. It was so hard. In the later levels that I was like, oh my God.
Are you having fun? Dying over and over and having to run back, for some people are like, this isn't really, I got stuff to do, this isn't fun.
And that's the thing, is like, some people get a lot out of the accomplishment of finally beating it after that period of time, and that's fine.
And hey, credit to you, Dark Souls people. You're a different breed, and I respect you.
I do. And again, if that's your thing, but like chat's saying, I don't think you should crap on people for playing it on easy mode. Again, sometimes that's just, I'll be honest too, I did the same thing with Squadrons. I got about 60% of the way through Squadrons, and there's some later levels that are just
tough.
Holy crap, hard.
And there are games where it's like, it lulls you into some like, oh, okay, this is easy. And then there's that one level, 50, 60, 40% of the way through, that they're just like, hey, min-max everything or you're gonna die. And you're just like, this just got like 300% harder. What happened?
Yeah, and that's I don't love those kind of games. That's just not the style that I'm in right now.
Hades and Hades and Dead Cells, great games.
Let's look for me. Like, what games are you looking forward to? What's your most anticipated for the rest of the year?
Oh man, there's so many. So Pikmin 4 came out last Friday. I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I really enjoyed the first couple of Pikmin games. Starfield, Baldur's Gate, we'll see about those. There's a new Yakuza coming out, which I'll probably wait because I have enough Yakuza to last me until I'm like 50. Super Mario RPG, that's going to be a big one.
Oh yeah, that remake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are games that I've yet to see, like the indie games that take 3 to 4 hours to complete. Some of those are just absolutely wonderful. A game that you can beat in a day, like not like no-lifing it for the day, but like actually taking a break and then coming back and beating it in a day. Yeah, there's a space out there for those, and I'm always excited for new versions of that, which Game Pass has been great about throwing those out there. Also, it's out already, but Timberborn It's like a colony simulator, except for they're all beavers.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's what we're going to call it for today. Don't forget, tomorrow we have trivia, Thursday night trivia. Tonight we have draft options. We got some fun draft options for tonight. So come see us tonight. We also have Pioneer tomorrow, as well as trivia. Friday we'll have Commander Night. Saturday is the Magic RCQ.
RCQ, yeah.
Okay. Sunday, hopefully a bunch of raffle stuff. So we will be in touch. So yeah, don't forget, follow us on all the stuff. Go to Heaven PNW for the latest updated event schedule. And we love you.
Yeah.
You want to do one last outro song, Pete?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Now? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's the outro song. Deedle-deedle-dee. Don't know why it's country this time, but it's an outro song. Deedle-deedle-dee. Be good and drink your water. Drink your vitamins, yeah. Sing your prayers if you're into that thing. But now you should probably pray to the aliens. Have a good day. Love you. Bye. Mwah.